free to filter in and have a seat up here. Don't feel like you have to stand. You'll be getting an invoice. Okay, any more takers on sitting down? Lunch twice sold.
Can I get in front of this for a second?
I want to open up by thinking it's like school children. They can't stop talking, but they're worse because they're politicians.
And we got 2 meals made already.
Well, good evening. Good evening to all of you. Thank you for being here. To start off, I just want to take a moment to just pause and remember the children who passed away in the fires that we had here in Overton County. Just remember their families in your prayers and thoughts in the coming days. Of course, that's horrific. Also want to just welcome and thank you all for being at our legislative session preview. And I want to thank our Main Street program for graciously sponsoring this event. Also want to thank Senator Yeager and Representative Butler for being here this evening. And of course, we appreciate all the work they do in Nashville for Overton County. As we begin, I want to introduce the format. This is a little bit different from our usual business after hours. I'm going to read the bios of Representative Butler and Senator Yeager. I'll give them a moment for opening remarks, and then after that, we're going to have about 25 minutes of discussion on issues that are impacting Overton County's business community. We're going to talk about the Courthouse Revitalization Act and the extension of that, hopefully, workforce and economic development, and I'll be guiding that conversation throughout. During the following discussion, I hope you'll stick around and enjoy the hors d'oeuvres from the Clark House and tasty beverages. I hope you'll socialize with Senator Yeager and Representative Butler and among yourselves. So let's get started. Senator Ken Yeager represents the 12th Senatorial District, including Fentress, Morgan, Overton, Pickett, Macon, Campbell, Clay, Rome, and Scott counties. Quite an expansive district, Senator. He was first elected to the Senate in 2008. He serves as chairman of the Senate Republican Caucus and the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations. It would have been much easier to say tax as well as a member of the Finance and Commerce Committees. He hails from the great city of Kingston and is an attorney by trade. Senator Yeager has been instrumental in securing funding for rural infrastructure projects and championing investments in community college systems during his tenure in the legislature. He holds degrees from the University of Tennessee at Martin and the University of Memphis Law School. Representative Ed Butler represents House District 41, covering Overton, Morgan, and parts of Anderson, Fentress, and Roane counties. First elected in 2022, he serves as Vice Chair of the Transportation Committee as a member of 3 House committees. A resident of Rickman, Tennessee, and a small business owner, Representative Butler brings firsthand understanding of the challenges facing rural employers and is a strong advocate for workforce development and expanding broadband access across the Upper Cumberland. Senator Yeager, Representative Butler, again, thank you for being here. Let's start off with some brief opening remarks from each of you. Senator Yeager, I need to say brief one more time.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I think it's good for us to hear from you. After all, we work for you. So we are, you're the owners, the stockholders. It's important that we know how you feel about issues. So it's thank you for doing that. And I had the opportunity to get here a little bit earlier and just take a self-tour of the courthouse square. Beautiful, just indescribable. I promise this, my wife will be up here. We're going to come up, bring her back up here. But there's a lot going on in this very fine city and county. And I'm glad to be a part of it and to represent it. So thank you for having me.
Great. Representative Butler.
Appreciate y'all being here tonight. It's good to see a good crowd here. I appreciate Zach for organizing this. When we first talked about this, I don't think this has been done in Overton County. If it hasn't, it's been a while since it's been done. We've done these in some of the other counties I represent. But I appreciate y'all taking the time. I know there's a visual going on. We'll bring those families tonight. But thank y'all for being here, and thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, guys. So let's start with important topic, the Courthouse Revitalization Act and the extension of that. Livingston is one of only 6 communities in Tennessee receiving this tax rebate designation. Can you share a little bit about this legislation and update us on the status of extending?
So the Courthouse Revitalization Act, I don't remember the year that it was first enacted, but what that does is allows Livingston, along with about 5 other cities, to keep a portion of the sales tax. And so a lot of the work that's been done on the square, not all of it, but a lot of it's been done with the sales tax revenue that has come in. And so what's happening is Livingston, these other counties, other cities, are able to keep a little bitty, small portion of the sales tax. And I believe this year it was about $600,000, wasn't it? So it's a significant amount of money, and that's grown over the years. And I'll have to give credit to the folks that have really had some vision on the square. And I know Gene's sitting right here, and he's a big advocate for that. But the work that's been done on the square, the improvements that have been made around the square. I see some business owners in here because folks are coming in from other areas to shop on the square in Livingston, and that's in part because of this revitalization bill. And so there's a piece of legislation that I've carried. Senator Yeager supported that in the Senate, that will allow that expires in 28. And so the legislation would actually remove at the sunset. The sunset just means it's going to stop in 28 and remove the sunset, and that would be forever, which is a big ask because that revenue continues to grow over the years. And so if we could remove that, then Livingston would be one of 6 cities in the state that actually gets to keep that revenue.
And it's a very important revenue to the city of Livingston. I said in my opening remarks how beautiful the courthouse square is. This is a reason why. And I'd hate to see that change. And I did support the bill. We had a companion bill that supported them as well. And because we were in agreement to extend that past of course, it was a pilot program, which would go away in 2028. We want to extend it and make it a permanent program, and our bills will do that. When it got through the finance committees, and both finance committees, there was some discussion of it, led by the chairman of those committees, and basically the bill that would extend it, do away with the end in 2028 is still a good bill, but it was set aside and put in what we call general sub in the legislature. It hasn't been killed, but it's languishing in a committee. And in the meantime, in this year's budget, the legislature, on the recommendation from the finance committees, established a $2 million grant fund that would allow any community to apply for a courthouse court square restoration grant. Of course, our money is still secure through 2028, but in the meantime, other cities could do that. And I'm thinking that the attitude on that was, if I may be just as candid as I know to be, some members in the legislature felt like that all the cities ought to have a crack at this. And I really don't have a problem with that, but I hope that this grant fund is only a temporary expedient, because I want to continue the current program, because we're paying for this out of our revenues. This is not just a gift that we are getting. This is something we asked for, and we want to make the commitment, and it shows. So I'm hopeful that we're still in the middle of a 2-year session. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to pull either my bill or, we have no pride of ownership. We want to get a bill that will fix this problem for Livingston. That we'll pull one of those bills out of committee, get it through, and get it fixed this year. So what can, you have a room of business owners here and business owners in the community who are interested in continuing in that. What can we do as a business community to ensure that continues? Is it advocacy? Is there something else that we can do?
Well, all the other House members that benefit from this are supporting the legislation, all the Senate members that have respective cities in there. So it's not, I don't know that it's necessarily an advocacy issue, because all of the representatives and senators that have cities in these areas are supporting this. Because we see the value in this. I mean, you drive to Livingston Square, and I think it's probably one of the models for how well it's worked
Yes.
across the state. I can't name all the other 5 cities off the top of my head, but I don't know that there's anybody that's necessarily against it that's in the communities, because it's such an asset.
I think it's very important that we have the data, that we show members of the committee, that we're paying for this out of revenue that would otherwise come to us. It's not like we're asking for something for nothing, if you please. You understand the point I'm trying to make? I think it's very important that we marshal that data and let us have it to use when we talk, because the way this works, if I may, we have a finance committee in both houses. Those committees will meet, and then as we get toward the end of the fiscal, at the end of the budget year, then those two committees, a subcommittee from both of those two groups will meet. And it's in that small group where that decision is made. And so I do all that I can. I'm a member of that small group now, and I will do all I can to make sure that we keep it.
So we're gonna task Gene with getting all that information to you.
I think that's really important. You know, it's
Definitely value to see the data.
yeah.
Would it help if some of us attended the committee meeting?
It would. And I think either Ed or I, the committee meetings will be going on in both houses, so either one house or the Senate, Ed and I'll let you know when that may come up. The bill is, on the Senate side, I can't speak for the House, but on the Senate side, the bill is behind the budget. It's just kind of out there languishing. It's put in what they call general subcommittee, where it's not gonna be moved, it's not gonna be acted upon. It wasn't killed. It's just been set aside. As you might say in county commission terms, laid on the table, you know. But we can bring it from the table anytime. And so, yeah, it would be good to be there, because I think it would be very good to testify, don't you?
Yep, absolutely.
Because, I mean, as I said, we're not asking for a free ride at all.
So let's, with all the growth we've seen in Livingston and Overton County, we're gonna transition to another topic.
One more thing, I don't know how many.
Politician. Good at talking.
Hey, I make a great Quaker, the Spirit's moving me, so. We ought to maybe, let's invite some of the members of the House and the Senate to come visit the courthouse square. Why don't we do that and show them what we've done? I mean, it'll blow them away. It's unbelievable what they've done. I'm sorry.
Okay, great.
I'm-
So as we see fiscal growth here in Livingston, Overton County, we have a number of major employers that will cite childcare as a barrier to workforce participation. So what specific policy solutions are being discussed at the state level to address this issue in rural communities like ours?
Well, let me take that first. It took forever. I say forever, it took over a year. One of the things, the Tupper Cumberland Development District came to me and said, hey, can you look at this since you're in the sprinkler industry and see if you can help us figure out. So before, the licensing limit was 24 children, and if you got over 24, then you had to do a laundry list of additional items, architectural drawings, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which on average was about $75,000, which really made it cost prohibitive. And so I just simply asked Human Services and Department of Commerce, which the State Fire Marshal's Office inspects these daycares, why can't we raise that to 49 children? Leave the requirements the same and move it to 49. And so in the last, 2 or 3 months, it's been done. It's been moved to 49 children with the same requirements that were previously for 24 children. As long as we agree to keep the square footage requirements and the ratio requirements the same as what it was previously. So I'm hoping that change encourages some of these daycares that are already existing to expand the number of children that they can take care of. Of course, by adding children, they're gonna have to add workers. So provided they can get the workers, they would be able to add by simply us just making that change. Now, when I say it took a while, they did it through an in-house process, and in hindsight, I wish we'd done it through legislation, we could have done it a little bit quicker. But sometimes you live and learn. But nonetheless, the number's been moved from 24 to 49, so we've essentially doubled the capacity of daycare. And most daycares are large enough square footage wise that they can add maybe 5 or 10 children if they have the workers with very little additional cost now. So one, most of these daycares are operating on a razor thin margin. So by adding a small number of children and maybe one worker, that actually might make them make a little bit of money. So I think we're at least moving in the right direction there. Are there some additional things? I would love to see some of the process streamlined. It is very strenuous to license a daycare. I mean, it's a lot of work. If you
Takes
just-
18 months, it's all pages and pages of
It's
regulations.
a stack of paper like this. And I understand we need to be very cautious with our children, we need to have some requirements, but at the same time, and I think it detours some people in some cases to do it because it is so complicated. It's overwhelming, I think, to a lot of people because there's so many aspects involved.
I get complaints from industry because, number one, childcare is one of the number one issues for people wanting, they can't get people to work because they can't get childcare. I hear complaints from obviously the parents. I'll come back to that. I get complaints from the operators of the centers because of the innumerable, insufferable, if you please, regulations the Department of Human Services puts on childcare. I think you alluded to that just a moment ago, as did Ed. We need to take a look at what the regulations that Human Services has put on there and see if we cannot make them a little bit more friendly, user-friendly here. And the other from the parents who the employees of the child care who aren't getting a decent wage. You know, you're not gonna get rich working in the child care. You're just not. And so, and then many families can't afford child care. It's too expensive. So I think as a state, we have moved in that direction. In fact, I was a sponsor on one of the bills, but we have a program now. This year we appropriated $7 million for eligible child care for employers to pay their workforce, to give them some boost in their salaries. And it has to be, there's certain economic requirements, but there is a program there. It's called the wages program. You know, if any child care, have them call me, we'll get that information too. There is some assistance available to help augment the salaries of these employees who are not making a living in the child care industry. And then we also have one to help the parents too, particularly parents who may be income eligible or parents who are in school, going to school full-time and have children and can't afford to go to school and pay for child care. We have a program that will assist those parents financially with grants or loans to help them, grants, not loans. So those are two programs that total about $13 million that we put in the budget this year to try to tackle the problem of making our child care employees some relief, making those jobs more competitive, and then helping the parents who are income eligible or parents who are struggling in school and to try to get an education. I'm talking about college, and then get your kids in child care. So we have made that step, and we'd encourage you. I'd be happy to let the chamber know about those programs if anybody want to apply, because candidly, $13 million won't go a long way. But it's in the budget, and I'm sure it will be back next year.
Thank you for that. So, of course, workforce challenges come in many forms. And Lance Mason's here tonight from the hospital, and we appreciate him being here. And they're such a big employer for our community and assisted serving. So could you, and let's be mindful of folks' time, could you tell me what is being done to address rural healthcare sustainability? There's been a number of rural hospitals closed over the last decade or so across the state, and particularly around Medicaid reimbursement rates.
I'll jump in there. It's a complicated issue. I have the largest district in the state, 9 counties, and we read to you earlier. It's also a very rural county. And I wouldn't have it any other way than having a rural district. But it's very difficult for hospitals to survive financially in a rural community. Since during my tenure in office, I've seen one hospital close in Fentress County in Jamestown. And I believe one closed in Cedar Island, but that was shortly before I took Clay County into my district. But we do have several programs designed to try to help there. I know this is the House Bill 1, that's a federal House bill, sometimes called the Big Beautiful Bill, is a two-edged sword because one source of income to hospitals is the hospital assessment, or essentially it's a self-assessment. It provides, long story short, additional dollars for hospitals. We have, it impacts that, it reduces that assessment, but it also provides rural hospital reformation funds available to the counties in Tennessee to, I think, $50 billion worth to the state of Tennessee. And one half of it, $25 billion, is a grant. The other half, the other 25 is competitive. You have the first one's a given. You're going to get it. It's automatic. The second one, it'll be competitive. But Governor Lee has applied for those programs, and that money is supposed to come back in to assist the hospitals with things like, our hospitals provide a lot of care that they never get reimbursed for. But that's what they're in the business of doing, helping people, and uncompensated care. And this money will come back to assist with that. We're going to put $28 million has put into the TennCare program that is designed specifically to come back to rural hospitals. I've not seen how that's going to fall yet, but that is in the budget to come back. I'm really concerned about one bill that's being discussed. I'll go ahead and tell you what it is. It's called Certificates of Need, or COEA. There is a serious effort by leadership, some in leadership, the governor has said that he'd like to see us look at that issue. That would have a devastating, if we did away with certificates of need, that would have a devastating financial effect on this hospital, Livingston Regional Hospital, and every hospital in this state. Devastating effect, and I will oppose that. But I think it'll be a tough fight. I honestly do. Certificates of need, in other words, would these companies that want to come in and just provide the services where they can make a profit, they don't want to have to they don't have to demonstrate that there is a need for the business. That's what they call a certificate of need. Most generally, the hospital commission that would oversee this would have a hearing, and generally speaking, our hospitals, and Ken Yeager and Ed Butler will be there opposing it. I spoke for you, Ed. I'm sorry. But that we don't need to do that. That's a very serious matter we need to look at. I know we don't read a lot about that in the paper, but that's coming because if we did away with those licensure requirements, you have these companies coming cherry picking the profitable aspects of the hospital industry, and then they're not interested in having the uncompensated care. They just want to rake the profit off, and it would close many hospitals. So that's a huge issue. I got off the subject a little bit, but we're seeing $28 million coming in for care to our rural hospitals. We're seeing the $25 billion grant that we know we're going to get is going to come back in through programs, for example, like improved technology in the hospitals. That's coming back into Tennessee for the hospitals. But one of the strings is the CON, so we got to take care of that issue as well. That was a long answer, but it's a complicated problem. Our hospital, economically, this hospital here, when I read the numbers, in excess of 340 employees. Good jobs, what I call jobs where people can make a house payment or a car payment. Good jobs. It's a strong economic factor in this county, but even greater than that is the health care.
Representative Butler, I think Senator Yeager.
He's cut me off. I'm starting to preach. I'm very passionate about this interest. I support these hospitals. We can't let them go under.
Well, if I can add on to his.
Briefly.
Jump in.
His CON comments, if you recall, last year, the year before, they tried to put a methadone clinic in Rickman. And of course, they were going through the CON process,
stopped
and we were able to stop that.
Right.
And the community support, we had a town hall meeting that I requested them do, and I think they were credited after the town hall meeting. But nonetheless, we had, I think, over 1,000 signatures from this community. Senator Yeager signed on to my letter, and we wrote a letter, and I personally hand-delivered it to the Health Commission, and they withdrew their application. But that CON process actually protects them from putting 3 or 4 methadone clinics in the exact same place. And actually, they ended up opening up in Cookville after several battles there. But since it's there, they can't come here because of the CON. So there's another reason to make sure we're protecting the CON requirements. And I'll cut it off there.
And I apologize for taking so long. I just
Senator
have no
Yeager,
passion.
follow his lead on brief remarks for this next question, okay?
Senators don't know how to.
Okay, so appreciate the passion on that. So let's transition and talk about maybe one of our best assets in Overton County, and that's our TCAT. The Livingston TCAT has been transformational over the decades for workforce development, and additional funds are always needed to expand outreach and to develop new programs. Could you talk a little bit about what, the state's commitment to, technical college funding, particularly for equipment and program expansion, that may be available?
Okay.
Well, and I'll be brief. The General Assembly has just put $1.5 billion into the TCATs. And let's not forget that Ball State is also.
They're coming up next.
Well, I see him sitting here, he's looking at me right now. Don't forget me. But what's interesting is yesterday, of course, you were there, we had a ribbon cutting to open up a new diesel mechanic and lineman school building. And then there's another building, the administration building, will be built next. And so that's a result of the General Assembly dedication, the governor's vision, and the General Assembly getting behind that and investing such a large amount of money in the TCATs. But really, for Livingston and Overton County, the TCAT that's here was a tremendous asset. I mean, I mentioned yesterday at the ribbon cutting that my own children have benefited from the TCAT here with an LPN and a cosmetology. Both of my girls went to TCAT here and have benefited from that, which I think other students are doing the same thing. Now that we added lineman school, we got truck driving school, some other things that are really good door openers for our young people to move into really good careers. And I'll stop there, be brief.
In addition to the $1.5 billion that he mentioned, we also found another $450 million to put in the budget as well for TCATs. And as I said at the remarks in Livingston, the TCATs time has come. And I'm so grateful for that, because TCAT is such a vital program, because they can get somebody in a shorter period of time, get them the training they need to step right out of school into a job. I'm so grateful for that. And in fact, I met earlier today with the president of the community college here, where we're talking about an innovation center in cooperation with the TCAT. And I really like that word, cooperation. Our TCATs are very important. Ed said the legislature really supports them. And I want to thank Governor Lee from the beginning. He has always supported vocational education. In fact, when we were over there yesterday, for the ribbon cutting, I went through, and some of the equipment in the new building was purchased with a GIVE grant money, which was established by Governor Lee when he first came into office. So it's
So for a community our size, we are so fortunate to have both a TCAT and a Ball State. And appreciate Dr. Tostenson and her team
take care of them.
For
Love
being
them,
here this
nurture them.
evening. So, Ball State is also crucial to our our workforce development, especially whenever it comes to healthcare programs and dual enrollment, things like that. So what is the outlook now for community college funding? And are there opportunities to expand, like through this innovation center, at centers like ours?
I think that there are. And I think that I appreciate the vision of our local education leaders at the community college and TCAT level for thinking outside of the box and to capitalize on some of the funding streams that are really available now. We are experiencing a renaissance of nuclear energy industry in this state. Now, I represent Oak Ridge, Tennessee as well, the home of the National Lab, where they helped win World War II by helping build the bomb. But the energy renaissance that we're talking about now is not just limited to Oak Ridge. It is gonna be all over this state. It is now all over the state. I'm gonna say a trade secret here. You know, we're running out of property in the Oak Ridge area, that area, for this industry. And so we're looking for counties, communities that are in this area. There's no reason why we couldn't have some of that expansion here. And we're talking about $60,000 to $90,000 a year jobs. So, and the department, I talked to the Commissioner of Economic Development about it, and I said, he was telling me about the shortage of property in the mid-eastern part of East Tennessee. And I said, well, why don't you move west? And they're going to. We just, and that's why we need to get our TCAP and the community college, if I may, ready for it.
And Dr. Tossison and Cliff Whiteman, they work so well together.
They
I'm
do.
so glad.
Good
that
job.
For our community that they do. Representative Butler, do you have any brief remarks?
Well, I do want to add, I was at a community meeting this last week, and Tennessee Tech is starting up their nuclear program back up. They were pretty much, I don't know that it was dead, but it was close. It was on life support. And Rome State and UT have all started to do four-year programs, and so the Ball States and the Rome States and those community colleges are starting nuclear programs. Somebody has to operate these reactors, so I think that's going to be a vital part. If we have reactors, we don't have anybody trained to run them. That's a problem. And so the number of nuclear engineers and some of that, I was told, is very few. It's really the support staff that goes into it that's really critical. A lot of those are trained or can be trained at the community colleges. So, and those are really good paying jobs. So my personal opinion, I see in less than a decade, the modular nuclear reactors being dropped off and set up, maybe in Rickman to run the sawmill, for example, and then the local cooperatives run those, and all states train the operators. So I see that being the way of the future.
So as we close out tonight, let's maybe take a minute each. Maybe you can share any legislative priority. Yeah. Could you please, Tommy, and start hitting him out the 30-second mark? Anything that we should, be tracking, whether it comes to operations, taxes, growth opportunities. I don't want to start with Senator Yeager. He might.
Doesn't matter to me. Well, again, thank you for letting us come, and I apologize if I've been too wordy. No, I don't apologize.
No, you haven't been worthy at all.
I things I wanted to say, because I'm proud of this community. I'm honored to represent this county and this city and the other communities here. And I want to do all I can to make this fine community even better by supporting our TCAPs, supporting the hospitals, supporting the community colleges, because it's just through these life-changing institutions that we can really see progress. So thank you for letting me do that. Ed and I work well together. We'll continue to do that. But also, one thing, the word prepare. Be prepared. When you get that call from ECD saying we've got a modular reactor company that would like to come out here and look at some property, you got to be ready. You got schools that got to be ready on the secondary level, higher education. Your roads have got to be ready, or you got to have a land farm. So be prepared. Thank you. And I did that in 60 seconds. We're close.
So, I won't get into a lot of legislation. I am working on legislation for 26, but, I look across the crowd and I see lots of faces I recognize, and one of the things that is probably most important for us to do as legislators is constituent services. And I know Ken's very focused on constituent services, and so am I. And I see folks in the crowd that we've helped on a personal level, and I see folks in the crowd that we've helped on the business side. And that's probably the most important part of our job. And I will be even briefer than him and say, I appreciate y'all allowing me to serve as your representative, and thank you.
We're ready to close. The one we're ready to close. No.
You all didn't hear any of it.
No, this is about, you know, I don't have to tell anybody in this room that we've experienced great tragedies here with these deaths and these children, these fires. It's just, words can't describe how I feel as a parent myself. I don't think there would be an objection. Could we just, Mr. Chairman, have a moment of silence and maybe a prayer for God's, the peace that only God can offer these people? Can we do that, Mr. Chairman? Can we do?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's just have a moment of silence, and then I'll close it off with prayer. Is that all right? Father in heaven, we come to you now with very heavy hearts because our neighbors have experienced unspeakable sadness and tragedy with the loss of their children through the devastating fires in our communities here in Overton County. We ask you, God, now for those who are the survivors who are in the hospital, for their physical healing. But we just ask you, Father, the author of peace, the balm in Gilead, the rose of Sharon, to give peace to these people who are grief-stricken over the loss, because only you can do that, Father. And we ask you in Jesus' name to do it. We thank you for how you love us, and we give you all the praise. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager, for that. Very touching. And thank you both for being here this evening. Want to be mindful of everyone's time, so I want to encourage you all to stick around. If you have one-on-one questions you want to ask Senator Yeager, Representative Butler, they'll be floating around. Have conversations.
Ed will handle all questions.
Have conversation with one another. There's hors d'oeuvres, there's tasty beverages in the back. Please stick around. And thank you all for being here and allowing us to nerd out and talk about policy and things that are important for Overton County. Let's give a round of applause.